Welcome to week 6. We are back in InDesign this week, so I hope you really enjoyed week 5 with the lettering process. But now we're going to get back into the nitty gritty of things. You don't have a full project this week, however, one of your exercises will be treated like a mini project to prep you for your final project, which will start next week, okay? So this week, we will be looking into how to professionally set up your designs for print. This also works for digital as well, but mainly for printing. And then we're also going to take a look and learn about grids and how to use them in our typography work, okay, with print design. So, looking at your lectures, so one lecture is going to be a PDF, and the other is actually a video for you to watch that I put together. So all of this is very important information. Of course, your assignments, like I said, the mini project that you have is called the trifold exercise. We'll walk through this here in a second. First, we'll go into the lecture. But the trifold exercise, then you have a discussion board. Do look, these due dates are a little different this week, just because I feel like since we normally do discussion boards Fridays and Mondays, I feel like that might be pushing it for this. So I'm going to give you until Sunday to post your draft for the initial post, and then you need to have your replies done by Monday, okay? So you will be responding to people, and we'll go into more detail at that in just a second. And then you're going to have a grid scavenger hunt, which goes into the first lecture. You will have a quiz on both lectures, okay? So this is important. This is going to be a 15-question quiz. It's going to be matching, true, false, multiple choice. There is one where you have to input a number, and there's an ordering question where you have to order things from first to last. These are your listed resources that you'll find throughout, so I just wanted to relink them here. And of course, your objectives, you can look over those. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the Intro to Grids lecture. That way I can kind of explain some other things throughout your assignments, and then we can go from there, okay? So, on this grid presentation, it does say watch video. That is the same video that is linked down here. So I do recommend you watching that because it's going to be a good brief overview, all right? So, first and foremost, let's actually pull this open. So what are grids? Okay, a grid is an invisible structure of intersecting lines used to arrange content on a page or screen. It provides a framework for organizing and aligning design elements, creating order and visual harmony, okay? Why use grids? Well, for consistency, efficiency, professionalism, alignment, spacing, and balance, and visual flow. There are a few types of grids, so let's look at those. There's the single column grid, which you can find more in books or single page like papers, like reports. Multi-column grid, you may find those in magazines or newspapers. Modular grid, you can also find those in magazines and newspapers in such ways, depending on how they are designed. A baseline grid and a hierarchical grid, okay? The three ones that you're going to use the most are the top three, okay? Your single column, your multi-column, and your modular grid, okay? Baseline grid and hierarchical grid are important, but in your line of study with the design at GTech, I do believe that these are the three most important ones for you to get to. So let's look at a single column. Ideal, like I said, for simple layouts like books or websites with single column text, okay? So this would be a single column. This is just like if you were to write a research paper and you were just doing this. There's not two columns here. It's just one column, okay? Your multi-column grid, common for magazines and websites, and allows for a complex and flexible layouts, okay? So this is where you'll start seeing multiple columns, okay? It could be from 2, 3, 4, 5, depending on how big the page is. but you do see this a lot in magazines. Your modular grid. This divides space into regular units, perfect for highly structured content like catalogs. So when you get into big things, I do know one of your projects for one of your design classes later down the road, you will be creating some type of catalog or a an annual report where a modular grid would come in handy for that. So a modular grid is going to look something like this. So if you've noticed in the background of this presentation, I have built a modular grid. But a modular grid kind of builds out of where you can place your content. Now, you could be a little more refined, like how this is actually an interview layout of how you can visually see more of the grid, or it could be a little more rough where you are using 2x2s or a 4x4 or 4x3, and depending on how you lay it out, but it still looks intentional because it's designed based on a grid. A baseline grid, this aligns text along multiple columns, creating consistent and line height and rhythm. So this comes into handy when you are working on large bodies of type. So this is your baseline grid. You can see how they sit at the same level on the baseline grid as it does with the headers. They still line up correctly from the descenders to the ascenders. They line up, so it just makes it optically more readable and legible. Your grid anatomy. So every grid contains the same basic parts, no matter how complex the grid becomes, okay? So first is your modules. These are small repeating units formed by intersections of columns and rows. We'll get into that here in a second. Your gutter is the space between columns or rows, providing breathing room. So this is kind of like your padding, okay? Things in the gutter they can cross the gutter, but when it's intentional and laid out in the columns and rows, you don't tend to pass the gutter, okay? Your margins. Your margins is the space along the page here, which is in the green, that are the edges of the design document, which is framing the content. In your other lesson, you will go over the technical details of a margin and what its purpose is and why it's there. But this is like the breathing room from the edge of the paper to the content area, to where all your content is. Your columns, which are vertical alignments of type that create horizontal divisions between the outside margins. So this would be a column. So think of like a table. Rows result from numerous flow line sets, regular repeated intervals from the head margin to the foot margin. So these would be your rows. Again, think of kind of like a spreadsheet. You got your rows and your columns. So next will be your scavenger hunt, and we'll go through the information with that real quick. So in your grid scavenger hunt, you have been tasked with, and this is what's going to be actually due on Monday. You're tasked to find real world examples of the following grid types: a single column, a multi-column, a modular grid. Now, I only want you to look and use physical books only. Now, it doesn't have to be a book. It could be a magazine. It could be a catalog. It could be whatever physical publication it can be. I will go in and revise that because it's not just books. So no Google or online sources, okay? You do need to find your own books, or you do not need to have your own books. You can use like a bookstore, a library, somewhere in Walmart. I don't care. You don't have to buy these books. They don't have to be in your possession. That's why I'm giving you a little more time on this so you can go and look. But what to submit, you're going to submit a clear photo of each grid example. So technically you're just going to give me 3 photos. You're going to label each photo with the correct grid type and ensure that the full page spread is visible and the grid structure is considered, okay? You will start to see optically of how the grid would align, okay? This discussion board, you do not have any peer feedback required, okay? So let's now take a look at our trifold exercise, which is your mini project for this week. So this week, you will be designing a professional trifold brochure in Adobe InDesign. Treat this like a client, okay? So I have provided you content for the company Skybound Adventure Co. Adobe is I have linked tutorials of what to do and how to set things up here. They will walk you through of how to create a different brochure, but the same steps will be utilized throughout this, okay? So you're going to set this up. I am giving you the specifications for the design document, and I can actually walk you through after this of how to set that up, okay? You are going to download the brand content. So you're going to click this zip file right here, and it's going to hit download, and you're going to download it. And even though I already have this on my computer, but I'm going to download it. And it's going to come up and look like this. Once you open up the zip file, it'll look like this. And because I have 2 of them, that's why that's there. But you'll see that there are 4 different logos. I have given you a color version, a full color, just a dark blue version, a sky blue version, and a white version. All depending on, you don't have to include all of them. Please do not include all of them. That's going to look terrible. Only pick maybe 1 or 2 of these to include throughout. I would just recommend doing 1 and figure out which one works best for your brochure and place that in there. You are required to put 3 photos in your brochure. How you put those in is up to you. You could do more if you want to, but only 3 is required, okay? So using 1 of these mini photos. And then this right here is the written content that will be on your brochure, okay? So like the front cover, you're going to include the provided logo, so put that somewhere on the front. You could also put a picture if you want to. That is up to you. You're going to put a subheader on here, and then a small footer line, you're going to put like a little bit of their information. And so it's going to tell you what is required for each page, okay? Now, with a trifold brochure, it's a little complicated to understand how to lay out, okay? So I have put right here of how to set up this and understand how to exactly set it up, okay? So, like I said, you have 4 versions of the logo that you can choose from, your brochure content and your photos. The brand requirements, what I'm asking you to do. Use all the written content. You're not allowed to paraphrase. You're not allowed to shorten it. Use that exact content. If you don't, you will not get full credit for this at all. Include 1 of the Skybound Adventure Co. logos provided. Like I said, choose 1 that works best for your design. Integrate the brand colors. I would just eyedrop from the color version of the logo to get the brand colors, which is really cool. The orange, the light blue, and then this navy. And then you may expand or build the color palette that fits vibe, but don't go too crazy with color, okay? Don't break this with color. You must include at least 3 photos from your assets folder, okay? Use appropriately, and you can use more if you would like to, but remember, you have a lot of content that you have to put in too. This is important. Remember to design with intention. Establish clear hierarchy, so headers, subheaders, body text. You can choose 2 to 3 complementary fonts. I will go ahead and tell you that the font that is used for this, the Adventure Co., it's Montserrat, which was one of the fonts for the specimen poster. So if you ever want to look back at that, I think it was Raven that had that font. So you can go back and download that if you would like to, or find something that pairs well with it. Do not go too crazy with it, okay? Remember, this is supposed to be professional. Make sure that everything is readable and well spaced. Give your brochure intentional color, not just black and white. Use proper margins, columns, and guides. Avoid text running into the folds. Use consistent spacing, alignment, and grid structure. Include thoughtful design elements like lines, shapes, icons, if so desired, okay? For your deliverables, and I will walk you through how to set up your trifold here in a second, but for your deliverables, you are going to package your InDesign file. And here in a second, when I create the file, I'm going to show you how to package your InDesign file, because it's different from just saving. And if you do not provide me the InDesign file, you have failed this exercise, because I will not be able to receive any of your content that you've created within this if it's not packaged, okay? And then a print ready PDF. By clicking either two of these links, it'll take you through a walkthrough of how to do that, okay? So let's go ahead, and I'm going to go into InDesign, and we're going to set up this trifold, okay? So ignore my documents over here. I'm going to go into new file. We're going to set it up. We're going to make it, so we'll look at the document setup right here of what we need. I'm going to close this out so we can see both at the same time. We're going to go back here, hit new. All right. So at the same time, so 8.5 by 11. That's your normal piece of paper size. Please, for the love of Pete and God and all things that are holy, please make sure that you are in inches, not pixels, not picas, not millimeters. We're in inches, okay? Otherwise, your document's going to be really small. Some of you have been submitting really, really small documents that I can't see. So, like I said, please make sure it's in inches. We are going to do it in horizontal or landscape. It comes up as landscape, but horizontal or hamburger style, whatever you want to call it, horizontal. We are going to make it facing pages, so make sure this is selected. We're going to go ahead and give it 2 pages, okay? We are going to tell it to do 3 columns. 1, 2, 3. And then we are going to set up a gutter that is 1/2 inch big. All right. Now your margins, those are also going to be 1/2 inch. All right. And you are also going to set up a bleed for this project. So do set up a bleed, which is 1/8 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch. And if for some reason you have slugs, please take that off and make that 0. You are only putting in a bleed, all right? So now I'm going to hit create, and you will see that it has created a nice little document over here. You know what? I made a boo-boo. We don't need this to be facing pages. It doesn't matter if it's facing pages. So when you are doing your document, you have it all set up. You do not actually have to select facing pages. I will go in and actually revise that. But keep everything the same, okay? And I'm going to go ahead and select this. The only reason I'm taking it off facing pages is because over here, it's just gonna format differently, and it's gonna look weird. So if you take it off facing pages and you just make sure you have 2 pages, this is gonna work just as fine, okay? So let's take a look at that setup, okay? So think of your trifold panels. I would definitely recommend you taking a sheet of notebook paper or something. I was even doing that today to make sure everything was laid out right, but follow this lead, okay? This is the first page and this is the second page, okay? Or the front and then this is the back, okay? That's what these 2 pages are going to emulate, okay? So when you fold a trifold, it's technically the fold is going to land right in the right between those 2, okay? So what we're going to do is pull guides in and make it snap right in the center of that, okay? You're going to do that for all of these, and all you have to do is pull from your ruler, over, okay? And it should automatically snap. All right, so now you have a design layout for your brochure, okay? So from here, this is where you are going to lay things out. And to read each of these lines, now I know it's going to be a little confusing, but you are going to treat this little gutter right here, the half of the gutter, as your margin for the front page, okay? And then you're going to use this half of the gutter for the margin of this, and then so forth, okay? So please do not try to extend past that. And if you have content that passes this blue line right here, it's going to go over to the next page, okay? This is your fold. This is your fold, okay? Now, you can have colors that bleed off to the next page. If it's intentional, make it work right that way, okay? But this is your best way of setting up your brochure, okay? So I'm actually going to show you a brochure that I just recently did and show you how to package your InDesign files, okay? So I'm going to open up, this is actually a brochure that I recently did for a client of mine. And you can see here how I have it laid out. You see my gutter lines. Mine are a little different because I designed this a little differently. But this is the proper setup. And I'm going to, so the thing about packaging your InDesign files, if you do not package your InDesign files, things like your logo, different shapes that you might add in, will probably not load correctly on somebody else's computer, because think about it, they don't have these assets that are linked in, okay? So by packaging something, you're going to go to File, you're going to go down to Package, okay? All of this is going to come up, and you're going to see all of this mumbo jumbo, and you're going to be okay. You don't have to check any of that, just hit okay. And then of course it might come up and say you must be saved before completing. That's fine. And it's going to come up and say this, okay? You're going to locate a file. For now, this is just going to be, I'm just going to do this in my teach file. I have the name of this project on here. It's going to automatically give you the name folder in this, which is cool. That is totally fine. You can keep it, you can remove it, whatever. It doesn't matter. You can rename it. Do rename it. Make sure it doesn't say untitled, please. And then make sure that all of this is selected. Make sure it copies your fonts. Make sure it copies any linked graphics, copies graphic links and package. All this jazz, okay? It needs to have all the links. So that way when I go and open up your design file, it is all there and it's not coming up as missing links, okay? So now I'm going to package it. And now I'm going to go locate it in my teach file, which it is right here. So what it's going to do, it's going to give you two different InDesign files. This one is like a markup language file. You can open it up in InDesign, but typically you open up the .indd file. And then this will have the links of all the fonts in here, and then your document links. So this one has just the one file for some reason. I don't know why. I guess maybe because some of these are embedded vectors. But anyways, so this would be where all your links would be, okay? So this would technically be your folder with all your photos, all right? And then in this, once you have this completed, you are going to create a new folder. And so it's going to be trifold, or I'm going to do name _ trifold. And then in this file, I'm going to drag over this folder. I'm going to drag over this folder into this file. So in the packs trifold, you're going to have your package InDesign file. And then in this folder, I'm going to save my final PDF, okay, with print marks. All right, so we are going to then go to export, save it as your name, make sure everything is set up, make sure that it is Adobe PDF print, hit save. Oh, I need to locate it into my trifold folder. Then hit this. Then to save it as to save it with print marks, you're going to go over here to bleeds, and you're going to hit all printer marks, okay? You can go ahead and do that and just get the habit of that. And do make sure that it says use document bleed settings, okay? You're going to then hit export, and then it'll show up in your trifold folder. This is your print ready PDF, okay? I goofed and I didn't make sure that it had both pages. So do make sure that you have both pages. I'm going to do this one more time. You're going to have it in the right folder. It's going to come up and say replace. That's fine. Do make sure you hit all pages. If for some reason it says range, do select all pages. Make sure all that is marked up. Then hit export. All right. And now you should have a 2-page document. That is your trifold, okay? This is the type of file that you will be submitting to me. You are going to then take this file, hit compress or zip or whatever your computer does, and this is the file, the zip, the .zip is what you are going to upload to me. Do not, for any means, zip this inside of this folder, okay? All you have to do is zip it once and you are perfectly fine, okay? All right, so that is just a setup of how to do that and package and getting your print ready PDF. If that went too fast for you, one, you could slow the video down, or you can click here and I do walk you through everything. I even give you a video as well, okay? So do walk through that. All right, so during your trifold exercise, you do have a draft that is due on Sunday, okay? This is just a discussion board that you are going to upload a screenshot, okay? You're just going to show me like what you have done so far. What you have done so far. So all you have to do is go in, hit a screenshot, and then upload it to this page, okay? Upload the screenshot, and then in 2 sentences tell us the direction you're going for, the colors, the layout, the overall vibe, and what you still need to work on, okay? I really do not want to see an empty document or a half-assed document, and I'm saying that in the best way, and I know that sounds crass, but I've seen a lot of half-assed documents from y'all. So please make sure that this is actually some momentum that you're showing me. Also, you are going to be commenting on 2 of your classmates' posts with helpful feedback. Please, for the sweet love of God, do not say, this looks good, or I love that. Please explain why. If you do not explain why and you just say, this looks good, I am not going to give you full credit for that at all. So do make sure that you are following all directions with that, okay? Also, so like I said, I have all the resources here. I am going to go in and revise some of the things that I caught while I was going through that. But of course, throughout this whole week, if you do have any questions, please reach out. Do not hesitate to reach out. I know this is, again, really, really fast, but it's all good things. And it's getting you set up for next week. So again, if you have any questions, let me know. I hope everybody has a blessed and good week.